Welcome back, fight fans, to another episode of The Coach and the Kid. We, of course, are BUDGE MMA. I'm the Kid. I am joined on this Monday evening by the Coach. And, Coach, we are coming off of a pretty solid event, UFC Abu Dhabi, De Ridder versus Whitaker. We kind of felt like we got robbed in the main event, Coach, but you broke that losing streak. You are no longer the Teflon Don. You got some wins to stick to your resume. Tell us about that last card and take us into this new event, Taira versus Park.
Well, it's great to see everybody. I'm kind of looking forward to this, but I don't know who's going to show up in a couple of days because we've already had a couple of cancellations. It's been a little confusing and kind of some last minute things, but that's what's fun about this. Actually, it's not fun, but you like to know who's going to be fighting, and sometimes you don't know till the last minute because not everybody makes the weigh-ins, and I'm not so sure this will be the case. I think we'll be okay, but we do have a couple of new opponents. But I think overall it's going to be a pretty fun day of fights, I think. But the last fights, like we talked about, even though we didn't go 100%, we did okay, and it actually turned out to be a pretty darn good card. Every card's going to have some negatives in it, but overall, I would say it was about a B card last time, and I'm totally cool with that. But let's get rolling. Did you have something to say, Kid?
Yeah, I agree, Coach. We have a new main event here 5 days out from Saturday. Tatsuro Taira was originally scheduled to face contender Amir Albazi. He is out with injury. We have Hyun Sung Park stepping in 3-0. He was the winner of UFC Asia. And it's a pretty decent matchup. I know name value-wise, Coach, it's not going to be one that shocks the fans. There's no big name stepping up. You're not going to get the Roy Val rematch or something of that nature. But Tatsuro Taira is a really highly rated prospect, and these are two guys that have been highly touted out of Asia for a long time, Coach. So I'm pretty excited. We're heading from Abu Dhabi back into the Apex for two cards, and then we have our big one, UFC Chicago, Chimaev versus Duplessis. Let's get right into this, Coach. I am excited. Right into our first matchup, Coach. And hopefully this is one that does stay on the card. I know you said earlier we've had some matchups switched around on the prelims and now in the main event. But an intriguing matchup here at featherweight. Danny Silva versus Kevin Vallejos. And Coach, on first glance, you see the measurables. You see the tail of the tape. Danny Silva is definitely the bigger guy. He's going to be a little bit more physical. But when I'm doing some more research and I'm watching some tape, I really like this guy, Kevin Vallejos' game. And then I went into his resume. I went into the record a little bit more because you see they're relatively equal records. 10-1, 15-1. Both guys have lost one time. The difference is, Coach, you look at Kevin Vallejos' one loss, and it was on the Contender Series to Jean Silva. How much credit can you give a guy for taking that fight not only, but using that setback, getting back into the UFC with another Contender Series bout, and now winning your first two UFC fights? And on the other end, Coach, we have Danny Silva, who's also 2-0 in the UFC, but both by split decision. And I think that's forecasted my pick a little bit. I'm going to go with the smaller man here, Kevin Vallejos. I think he's really well-rounded. I liked what I saw against Jean Silva. That's a guy that's really difficult to fight. As you see, Jean Silva has been tearing through the featherweight division. No one has been able to solve that problem yet. I think Kevin Vallejos looked good. It went to a decision. Ultimately, he didn't get the nod. But I think he's going to have a little bit more than Danny Silva here, who I think is a little bit one-dimensional at times. I'm going to go with the Argentinian here, Coach. What are you thinking?
You talk so much sometimes that you eat up the whole thing, and I got nothing. And this time, you're the pro, okay? And all I got to say is you're right on every count. And I'm going with Kevin too because I think he's the faster of the two, and I think it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah.
I mean, Silva's a big dude, and it's a good matchup. But I think that Kevin is quicker. I think he's quicker, and I really think he's going to. I think he might just knock him out, but I think it's going to be a good fight.
I agree, Coach. And after Danny Silva's first two UFC fights, they were both by split decision, as I mentioned before. He said he's coming for heads. I don't think Vallejos is a guy that he wants to, really engage in a firefight because I think Vallejos is going to be able to come through that and get that win. I mean, he's a physical guy. You even look at this picture down below prior to weigh-ins. He is built like a truck. He's a really physical dude. He's fast. I think the physical attributes, despite the tail of the tape, are better in every facet of the game than Danny Silva. And I think he beats him to the punch, like you said, Coach. I think you're spot on. I think he knocks him out early. If it goes late, I think this is my contender for fight of the night. But, Coach, my early pick is Kevin Vallejos.
I'm with you there, brother. Let's move on.
Moving on, Coach, to two guys that are aging into the senior division. These two guys, whoever loses this fight, Coach, I'm going to predict. Sometimes we do our predictions of who they're going to fight next. I know we said Bogdan Guskov was going to fight Jamal Hill next. I think the loser of this fight ends up fighting the coach next year at UFC 325 or something like that. Both guys will be about the same age. We have Neil Magny at 37 fighting Aleksei Zaleski dos Santos at 38. Coach, you look down these guys' record. Neil Magny is probably the most prolific welterweight in history, just in terms of the sheer amount of fights. You look at the last three alone. He's fight Michael Morales, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Gary. Every prospect that you can think of over the last 10 years, Neil Magny has probably fought him because he's been that gatekeeper of the 170 division. He finally gets a matchup where he's not 10 years older than his opponent. And this is probably the only matchup you can give him where his opponent's going to be older, Coach. And it's the same thing with Zaleski dos Santos. He has some really good wins on his record. He's knocked out Sean Strickland in the first round. There's been a couple other really good fights. Coach, it's kind of a toss-up here. I know I ate up a lot of that info last time. I'm going to go to you to the pick first. Give me what you got.
Well, thanks, man. I'm fighting Mike Tyson in a month, so I probably won't get to Magny for a little while. But all kidding aside, I like Neil Magny a lot because he will take on any fight. You know, when Uncle Dana calls, he answers. He likes to fight. I think he's got a lot of skills.
Yeah.
I like Neil Magny, but I'm going to go with Dos Santos because I would have picked him. And from now on, I'm just going to go with who I think will win, and then I'll pick the other guy.
Yeah,
so
Coach.
I do like Dos Santos, though. I think, and Magny's bigger. He's got size and reach and all that. But I don't know. My gut tells me Dos Santos is going to take him for some reason.
I've been back and forth on this fight, Coach, and you know it's a little bit sad when you're going back in your head on the 6th hour, your 8-hour shift at work, and you're thinking about whether 37-year-old Neil Magny is going to take out 38-year-old Zaleski dos Santos. Coach, I think, like you said, Magny is the bigger man. The only thing that concerns me is power is always the last thing to go with a fighter, and Zaleski dos Santos has a lot of it. That's a lot of his game. He's relied on that capoeira style where he's kind of flimsy, and he's kind of got a lot of unique moves. He's got some pop in his hands, and I think that's been
Right.
Neil Magny's downfall in a lot of his latest fights. Coach, I'm going to go with the underdog here. This is going to be my underdog pick of the week. I'm going to go with the bigger, more experienced man. He's turned back many a contender before. This is not a contender. This is more of an equal matchup. His last time out, we saw him take a couple brutal losses. We saw him get knocked out pretty bad by Carlos Prates, and it didn't even really look like that shot landed, Coach. I remember we were watching and we were texting each other like, did that shot even land? Neil Magny's back after a long break. We saw him turn back Mike Malott, which is a little bit encouraging. I think Magny uses the clinch to effectiveness. I think he wins this fight by decision, Coach. I'm going to go with the underdog, Neil Magny. We're on opposite ends of this pick, Coach. I think the coach's 3-fight plan is Mike Tyson, Zaleski dos Santos, and then Jake Paul for the cruiserweight belt. Let's move on.
And then Cat Williams.
I like it. I like it. Coach, we are moving on up the card to what feels like our first women's breakdown, I think maybe on the channel. We haven't had a women's fight on the main card in quite a while. A bantamweight bout between Carl Rosa and Nora Cornole. Coach, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to pick Carl Rosa. I think right off the bat, a lot of things are telling me to go with Carol. Nora has a lot of trouble on the scale. She doesn't make weight very often, and whether that's a strategy or not, it's not very encouraging to me in women's MMA. I know a lot of the times in the men's game, there's a strategic weight miss where you don't want to kill yourself to make that weight and you forfeit some of your purse so you can get that win bonus. But Coach, I think Nora is very one-dimensional, and I think Carol may have some skills in each category, But women's MMA is such a coin flip. I mean, if you're betting on women's MMA, it's time to find a new hobby. You might as well bet on 3 a.m. Chinese ping pong because that's more of a lock than this, coach. Nonetheless, I'm going with Carol. I think she's got more well-rounded skills. Where are you going with this fight, coach?
So, you're the pro, so you're telling me not to bet on Chinese ping pong. Is that correct?
I'm thinking neither of those are a good bet. Rosa versus Cornole or
Okay.
Chinese ping pong, I think from a betting perspective is a bad bet.
I want to make sure.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure because I was going to put some money down on a guy named Wing who I really like. But,
yeah, no. If you were just looking at the card, you might think this is Chinese ping pong in the main event, Taira versus Park.
That's a true statement,
yes.
And that's racist too. Watch your mouth, young man.
Apologies.
Hey, seriously, Carol Rosa, I think is she's had some good wins, and the only reason one of the reasons why I'm picking her is Cornhole hasn't fought anybody. She hasn't had any big fights.
Yeah,
that's number one. Number two, I hate that haircut. So I'm gonna go with. I'm an old guy. I go with traditional hairstyles, and whatever the hell Cornhole's got, I don't like it. Okay, that's flock of seagulls. I never liked them. I'm going with Carol because I think she's a better fighter, frankly.
I agree,
and that's
Coach.
It, man. I'm going with Rosa.
I agree. We're on the same side with Rosa. It's a battle of a bad haircut versus terrible tattoos, and I think the tattoos get it done here, Coach. Let's move right on to a lightweight bout. And, Coach, I know I said there was a potential fight of the night contender prior, but this is going to be my pick for fight of the night right here. Esteban Ribovitz versus Elves Brenner. Coach, Elves Brenner came into the UFC super hot. I mean, this is a guy who beat Guram Kutateladze by punches, and that was a guy who people thought was going to be a top 5 contender, and all of a sudden, Elves Brenner came into the UFC underdog in 3 straight, won all 3. I never saw it from him, Coach. I never saw the Brenner hype. I saw him catch a couple guys, change fights with a punch to the neck against Kutateladze, who ended up not being anything. He beat Vucenic, and then he had a couple really, really disappointing losses. I like Esteban Ribovitz, and I like his game. We saw him beat Zellhuber, our boy Zellhuber. Yeah, never picking him again, by the way. A recent loss doesn't really set him back that far for me. I thought he should have won that fight against Nasrat Haqparast. I really thought he was on the better side, I think he should be 15-1. I think he's a super talented guy, and I just don't see it from Elves Brenner. The resume looks good, but I'm going to double up on Argentinians here, Coach. I'm going to go with Esteban. Where are you going with this one, Coach?
Well, I'm a musician, right? And normally I would never pick Esteban over Elvis. If you know anything about music, Esteban's this guy that comes on your TV at 2 a.m. and tries to sell you guitar lessons. Now, normally I would say Elvis is the king, but in this sense, I'm going to be honest with you, Brenner is going to be just looking for takedowns. But Esteban, he throws a lot. He's a fighter, and if he keeps it on the feet, he will knock this dude out. Elvis will be leaving the building on a stretcher. And that's what I think. That's why I'm going with Esteban.
I agree, Coach.
That's my pick. And I also think it's going to be fight of the night. I think these guys, I think it's going to get dirty.
Yeah, I agree. All of Elves Brenner's fights, whether you like him or not, have been wars. Same thing with Ribovitz. These guys come to fight. I think the thing that I like about Ribovitz, Coach, a lot of these times when you see a power striker, a guy who can put you out on the feet, the volume isn't very high. Ribovitz is a combination of both. He can put you out. We saw him put out Terrence McKinney quickly. We saw that classic fight of the year contender against Daniel Zellhuber at UFC Noche. All of the above, even the last fight that he lost that I mentioned against Haqparast, he throws punches in bunches, Coach. I love the volume. He's going to put it on Elves Brenner here. I don't think Brenner has anything for him on the feet. Like you said, I think he's going to shoot early. But I think Ribovitz is going to be able to keep this on the feet. We've seen him be well-rounded. This is a fight that kind of determines where the top 15 goes, because I think these guys have a lot of potential in this lightweight division. It's time to usher in a new guard. You've got the Gaethjes and the Poiriers kind of going away. Same thing with the Oliveira. As sad as it may be, you see these guys being ushered out, and the new guard is kind of coming in. Coach, I think Ribovitz is part of that new guard, and I think he takes out Elves Brenner here.
I agree, and I like what you said, punches and bunches. I think I'm going to I think I'm going to put that on a shirt. I like that.
Yep. Hey, 1,000 subscriber special. We'll drop some merch, and the two people that are going to buy it are going to be the coach and the kid. Moving on to our co-main event of the evening. And coach, upon first glance, this card is terrible name value wise. But as a hardcore fan, and even as the coach, I think we can both recognize there's some really entertaining fighters that just haven't had the chance to showcase it on a bigger stage. That's why their name isn't bigger. They haven't been in those title fights or those number one contender fights. Coach, we have Mateusz Rebecki going up against Chris Duncan. This is a really good fight, coach. I think Rebecki is a really, really good fighter. You saw that fight against Miktekbek Oralbai. That was a fight of the year contender as well. Both guys bloodied and battered at the end, and Rebecki got the better of him there. I don't see it from Duncan. There's a lot of guys who have really good records on this card that I look down and I just haven't seen it from him. I watch their tape and I'm thinking, he's good, but does he beat a top contender or a guy that I'm thinking is going to push towards the top 15? I think Rebecki's a guy that can push towards the top 15. He was on that trajectory before he got finished by Diego Ferreira. And I think he got back on track in a major way in that last fight against Oralbai. I think Rebecki is really well-rounded. He's part of that younger guard that's ushering in, while the old guard is kind of getting pushed out by these guys. This is a fight that I see winner gets put in that 15-14 range and starts looking towards a top 10 name. Ultimately, coach, I think Rebecki gets it done. I think he has too many tools for Chris Duncan. I know Chris Duncan's out at American Top Team, has a lot of great training partners. I've never seen it from him. I'm going with Rebecki here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're in agreement on a lot of these fights. Chris Duncan, he's got a problem with his chin, first of all.
Yeah.
And I think that if he gets through the first, he might have some success. But I think he's going to end up with, we're both tennis guys, and I think he's going to be like an old tennis pro that kind of doesn't make it, and then he goes back to Scotland because he opened up his own MMA studio.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to go back there and teach and good for him because there's not much going on there. My wife was just there not too long ago, and the weather sucks, and people are sweet, but they're going to have an MMA place to train if they get really bored. But Chris Duncan, I think he's going to be back there teaching soon. Now, the thing about Rebecki is he comes out aggressive, and he goes nuts, like right away. He's going to come at this guy, and he's going to come at him hard. And the only problem with that is he does not have a big gas tank. If he comes at him hard and doesn't finish him, he's going to gas out. And hopefully he's worked on his cardio, because that's been a problem with him. He's a fast starter, and I think he is going to take Duncan, and I think he's going to take him quick because he's a guy that likes to throw, and I just think he's going to go after him, and I think he's going to knock him out. Chris Duncan, he's one of these guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going with you. I think Rebecki's going to take him.
I agree, Coach. The thing is with Chris Duncan, I just don't see anything that jumps off the page to me. When I'm breaking down a contender, I want to see something that you're elite at. I want to see you be able to hold a guy on the ground for a full round. I want to see some electric power or some huge volume. I don't see anything that Chris Duncan is super elite at. I just see a lot of things that are good. I don't see a lot of A pluses. I see a lot of C's. You know what I mean? I see things that he's above average at, but nothing where I can pinpoint that this guy is elite in that one category. And I think for Rebecki, he's elite for about a round, maybe a round and a half. But in this scenario, I think that's all he's going to need. And I think he kind of cleared up that cardio assumption in his last fight against Oralbai. That was a really hard-paced 2.5, 3 rounds. Both guys were going at it hard. We've seen Oralbai put the pressure on guys and break guys, and he was not able to do that to Rebecki. That is super encouraging for me here. I think he's better wherever the fight goes. I like Rebecki to not necessarily dominate per se, but make it look pretty easy on his way to a 29-28 decision, Coach.
Good call. I think you're right. I think it's going to be. I don't think it'll be that close, but I also think he's going to knock him out early. That's my take.
We're on the same side there, Coach. let's move on to the main event. As we said earlier, I know it's going to show a picture of Amir Albazi there. That is definitely not Tatsuro Taira or Hyung Sung Park. That is Amir Albazi. The UFC website has not quite updated it yet, as it was only 12 hours ago since the cancellation. But as I said in the intro, Coach, Hyung Sung Park is not a guy that's just a walkover for Tatsuro Taira here, especially coming off of his first pro loss to Brandon Royval. Taira was a super hyped prospect coming out of the Asian region. And whenever you see that, they're going to get fast-tracked directly to the top because that's a major mainstream market for the UFC, especially when they're lacking a star on the male side. They've got Weili Zhang on the women's side, but if the UFC can find a way to crack an Asian star into the male title picture, that's massive, Coach. If you see any sports star that signs with a ambassador brand in Japan or China, like a Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson here, big star, but not a Curry or a LeBron or a Doncic, Antetokounmpo, somebody like that. But you put him in China, and they come out in droves, Coach. Imagine what they would do if Tatsuro Taira brought the belt back home. It would be millions of people in the street. Even people that don't even watch the sport would be coming out to support their guy. That's just how these Asian countries are. So, Coach, Taira was pushed really early. He had that main event against Royval. He finished Alex Perez in the main event as well. They were fast-tracking this guy to the title. They were hoping that he could be put in that title picture quick. Coach, he comes back to earth here. He was scheduled to fight Amir Albazi. Now he's got kind of a layup. It's a short notice fight in Hyung Sung Park, but this guy's 3-0 in the UFC as well. He's a dangerous, dynamic finisher. He won Road to the UFC in Asia. Coach, I'm going to let you hit this first just because I took the last two. What are you thinking here? I know there's no odds on this fight yet. It's a relatively new fight. What's your first predictions here?
I think, Park is not going to win, and it's great that he took the fight. And and you're dead on with all the Asian backing. I don't care who you are. You look at it historically. Jeremy Lin, he was a pretty good player, but boy, he became a god.
Yeah.
Just by and honestly, it really helped him too. Once he had the backing, all of a sudden he turned into a legend.
Yeah.
And you look at all the difference. Look at Shohei, for crying out loud.
100%. Biggest star in sports.
Yeah, and now these pro teams are buying these guys because they know that they bring a following. And we watch a lot of tennis, and we watch a lot of baseball and everything. I think football is the only sport that they haven't really brought a superstar in, and they're starting. There's been a couple of kickers, but it's amazing how they back their own up, and I think it's because there's just not many.
Yeah,
and these countries are pride based. They're like the USA kind of used to be. They have a lot of pride, and they do back their people, and bless them for it because it's nice to see. And I think Park is going to, he's not going to win, but he's a boxer. And he's going to be in trouble because Taira will take his back. And this guy's going to throw. He's going to get in a precarious situation. And Taira's going to take his back, and he's going to take him down. He's going to choke him out. That's what I think. But Park's going to put on a show. Hopefully it'll go a few rounds and people will be entertained. I think it's a nice little showcase for him. I also think I don't know. I like the excitement of the big fights, but the Apex, man, it's so intimate, and it's kind of nice to see this. I like it. In fact, I would love to get tickets to one of those fights because it's like, man, it's like the best seat in the house for the big events. I don't know if you've ever had. I'm not sure, kid, if you've ever fought there, if you've ever gone there, or I don't really know. I know you're a jiu-jitsu guy. But we both have been to the UFC gyms.
Yeah.
And that's probably as close as we're going to get.
Yeah, for sure. For me, Taira is way too well-rounded for Park. He's so good on the ground. He's probably one of, if not the best grappler at 125, and the hands just continue to get better. I wanted to see this Amir Albazi matchup just as a litmus test because I thought he was going to learn from that Royval fight. I still think this guy's a future champion at 125. When I talked earlier in the co-main event, when I was talking about Chris Duncan, I said I want to see an elite skill. If you want to see an elite skill on display, look at Tatsuro Taira's grappling and his back take ability. This dude will be on your back quick. He's almost like a Chimaev at 125. He's so good at taking that back. He's so good at finding the holes in your grappling game, even to experienced veterans. I think this is such a layup for Tatsuro Taira. The only thing that scares me is Hyung-Sung Park has quite literally nothing to lose. This guy's 3-0 in the UFC. If he beats him, he's one fight away from a title shot. If he loses, Dana's probably promised him another big fight after into the rankings because he's saving this main event on 5 days' notice. So he has nothing to lose. He's going to come out there and swing bombs, try to knock out Tatsuro Taira, and ultimately get taken down and finished on the ground. Coach, we're in agreement there. I'm going to say second round submission for Tatsuro Taira.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only thing that scares me is, and you're right about all those things, this guy's a boxer, and I haven't really seen him fight, but, I wish I had, because I always think about Josh Van, who's like, he's like going through the roof now. I mean, we both love Josh Van, and he goes in there like he doesn't care. And if this guy comes in there like that, like I got nothing to lose, like you said, you never know what's going to happen. He could catch him, and then this, it's a different fight. So we'll see.
It's a fist fight, Coach. Anything can happen, especially for a guy that has literally nothing to lose. But I'm going to go with Taira here. That's a pretty easy pick from me. We're both in agreement on the last 3 fights of the night. Coach, we've got some really exciting events coming down the pipe. I just wanted to thank you here at the end for being my co-host, stepping up with the legendary knowledge. Like I said, I think this is the week that Coach goes 6-0. Coach, we'll be back next week. We'll be back with the recap for Taira versus Park. Like I said, couple big events coming down the pipe. Chimaev versus Duplessis is on our radar already. I'll have a video out about that later in the week. Coach, it's been a fun one. We're out.
See you, buddy.
Love you, Coach.